All right, here we go. So, welcome back. It's Friday again. It's amazing how the time flies when you're in quarantine. Welcome back to the, I guess, weekly open studio design session. Um, if you're new around here, the idea behind these sessions on this channel is that we kind of have like a atmosphere going on. Um, where I'm working on my projects and you can be working on your own, uh, I guess, maker project. It doesn't even have to be, this, airplane models and things like that. Just anything creative you want to work on. This is kind of a session through the internet, through the power of the internet, to kind of have that kind of atmosphere of creativity. So, with that said, this week is, I don't know, week like 10 or 12 at this point of me working on this F-16 model that you see here. Just for reference, this is approximately the size of my hand, so it's about enough to cover the wing area here. So last time we really just started working on the underside here. So I'd say this model is probably about, I'd say maybe 80% or 75 to 80% there. And the reason for that is if you look on the underside, there's actually no real structure here. It's just a flat piece of cardstock. So, today the plan for this session is to actually create cross sections for each of these locations, which will hopefully help us loft a 3D structure similar to the top half of the aircraft here with the canopy. If you go back several live stream sessions, open studio design sessions, you'll see that we lofted this extremely rigid canopy structure using that the center loft and the cross-sectional supports, and it turned out really great. This canopy is probably one of the best canopies that I've ever made for one of these paper airplanes. This took a lot of layering and everything to get it to look like this, but I think it actually looks pretty great. And the reason for this, increase in quality, you might be wondering, is really due to the fact that we dedicate more time and more quality time to each and every aspect of this design, right? So if you remember, weeks back, we spent ages creating the internal mechanism of this F-16. So as you can see, the tail here can be actuated through this knob at the end here, right? So you can push or pull this, and the tail surface here will actually move. It's very slight, but the mechanism does allow for that. And when you push it all the way forward, you're actually able to, unfortunately the mechanism doesn't work too well. It's not very smooth when it comes to the leading edge flaps, but you can move these and they will stay in position if you push the actuation rod forward. So this is pretty neat, and the only way I could do this was to spend more time and more quality time, which is why it takes weeks, because we literally only spend 2 hours each session, a little over 2 hours, and we work on one aspect for that session alone, and it accumulates over time, and then you have this really, I think, what is pretty cool model here. So last time, again, to reiterate, we got started on the underside here with the center loft, Today, our goal is to create the cross sections that are perpendicular to this vertical center loft, and then eventually loft a surface over it, just like how we did with the canopy here, which is very smooth. I'm really proud of this canopy. If you remember the very first prototype for this canopy, it was really bad and not well thought out. I am very glad I decided to scrap that and redo the entire structure here. I think this looks really great so far, and I'm excited to see what the finished product will look like. You might notice on the bottom here that there are two binder clips, right? These are not meant to be permanent, right? Of course, because this is not aerodynamic at all, and they don't even look like the underside here, but they do serve a nice purpose of just holding the aircraft above the table. As you can see, there's a gap here, right? So if you can see here, yep, there's a gap, and this is useful for the sole purpose of maintaining that kind of vertical perpendicularness to the underside of the aircraft, because if you lean this material, this tab, on its side like this, right, at an angle, it's going to deform and it's going to get damaged, and it's going to make the lofting process harder. So this is why I put two clips here to prevent that from happening. So with that said, I think before we get started on making the cross sections, which is quite a tedious process, and it might take a long time, which is why you should probably work on your own projects, while keeping this stream on in the background. This cross section needs to be modified a little bit, I feel like, because if you look at the back here, even without even with a super tight structure, this portion right here looks way too thick. To me, it does not look right. I know the nozzle comes out a little bit, but this is a little bit too thick, so we might have to redefine the cross section here to be a little bit more tapered. And then we're going to add a nozzle eventually. This looks absolutely hideous, but we will work on this eventually. This was supposed to be a simple project, but it's actually ending up taking a lot longer, simply due to the fact that I'm spending more time on each part, making sure it's a quality part. So it looks great so far, I think, and I guess we can get started now, redefining the cross section, and then eventually making redefining the side profile, and then start making the cross sections. So yeah, go ahead and work on your projects and keep this on in the background. It might be super boring, right? This is a very long process. This is probably going to be a 2-hour or so stream, so please feel free to do whatever you need to do. So all right, here we go. So before I do that, I should get an actual reference picture. So I have to my left here an iPad, which I'm going to reference some of the drawings of this plane, just like a diagram that you can pull off of Wikipedia, right? Those aren't official blueprints, but they are pretty close. So I use that to guide me. And using that actually saves you a lot of time, so it's pretty smart. I would highly recommend doing that. Right here, I have several templates from previous streams that we can use to match the scaling on the iPad, so that we have a proper view, proper shape, size, right? Let me just grab that from the side here. It's a mess. It's absolute mess right now. All right, but here we go. We do have a template from way back when. And let me just move this to the side a little bit. Take iPad here. Right, so you see like a drawing, right? And since we can't really set a scale, really define a scale here, we'll have to work with our eyes and see how to make this work. So this is approximately the scale that we want, right? I think this is pretty close. Maybe a little bit larger to let that geometry fit in. Again, this is pretty finicky. This is not like an exact method. And then again, this project is not an engineering project. It's more like a art project, but it's somewhere in between, really. And that's where I like to operate. So this actually goes to the back. So I am actually able to fit this entire thing on this iPad. So if I keep the tail here and I expand the nose, eventually it's going to fit. Alright, so I think that's about as good as we can get it. So now we're going to lock it in place. Alright, so now we can't really adjust the scale. So if I unlock it and pan only, you can look at a drawing of the front here. And I can also look at a drawing of the back. So this back is what we are trying to fix here. So without, proper measurements, we're probably not going to be able to get the exact shape. Actually, for this profile, I traced it off of this initially. So it's an exact shape, but it just doesn't look right in our case. It's a little bit thick. So I'm thinking about, tapering this a little bit more. Also, at the same time, we got to keep in mind that there is a nozzle structure that extends past that. Right, so this might look weird, but if we ignore that, does it look like it's proportionate? Right, so this bit right here is the same as this. It's a little bit taller, to be honest. It's probably because of the structure underneath. There are straw structures here, so internally. And this bit is the same as this bit. So really, the problem seems to be the top portion, but even if the top is more tapered, it feels a little bit off. So I'm not sure how much to reduce it by. So if we look at that, it's about where we're at. So I don't know, maybe I'll keep it, but really pinch down the top here. But the nozzle, it comes out back here to about this knob area here. So I don't really know. I am not sure about this. So another thing that we can try is to compress the actual structure here a little bit, because there is some slack, right? Some mechanical give to this. So if we tape off this end portion here, and really pinch down on this, we might be able to reduce the make it a better taper. So I think we're gonna try doing that first before modifying the cross section, just to be safe. Move everything to the side here. It's a little warm today. Let's see. Yeah, it's 77 degrees. I turned on the AC, so hopefully my phone won't overheat, but you never know with these things. So if it does happen, just sit tight and wait a little bit. Try and get it back online as soon as possible. So again, we agreed to compress the aft end a little bit. See how much we can get. Alright, so we'll have to tape this bit down. That'll be interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a long piece of tape here. I'm going to put it on to one side here. This is really gotta be careful here. Then got some more tools here. I'm gonna take our X-Acto knife and trim this ledge right here. Let's just cut it all the way through. So I could have just started with a cut piece, but I had to figure that out through the process of modifying it. Alright, so this piece right here, just like really start in the middle here. So this is a weird piece to really tape because it's at an angle, right? It's a very awkward angle. I'm going to try and secure it as tightly as I can here. It's okay because we'll work on this later, right? The nozzle will eventually cover all this mess, but to get the overall bones and the underneath structure correct, we need to do a lot of compression here. Yeah, we will definitely cover over this. It does not look great at the moment, but that's the goal. All right, let's just move prototype 004 out of the way. I still need to work on a video for those, but I have not been able to motivate myself to finish that. So let's see what we have here. All right, so this time I'm gonna be smart and cut this beforehand. All right, so you grab a half a width of tape here, and this is standard Scotch tape, right? So this is 3/4 of an inch. So really just want to compress this piece down, but to do that we need to really secure it. In the real life F-16, this piece right here is an air brake, right? It splits open like that. And, you know, to save on mechanical complexity and time spent on this project, we are choosing to leave that out. So, if you do want to pursue that, by all means, go ahead. But I am not going to include that feature in this model. Alright, so that compressed the tail end a little bit, which helped. I feel like we might just leave it as is, this cross section on the bottom here. Once we compressed it together, it looks a lot better, a lot more tolerable. You know, it's a little bit tapered. You have to understand the nozzle comes out about here. You have to imagine like a even more tapered structure coming out here, which I think is reasonable. This is good progress. Okay, looks good. I'm just gonna pull this knob back a little bit and move this slat up. Okay, all right, let's get started on the cross sections. That's the main focus. Put my iPad too far away. I gotta reach for it. There we go. All right, so all the information we need is right about here. So let's get prototyping, shall we? So we're gonna use our iPad as a light table. We're gonna get a rough cross-sectional area shape right here. This is gonna be the very first station on the underside. So this is gonna be the forward intake, probably cross-section right here. Something like this, right? Horizontal line there. But it really depends on what we need. So let's see how that fits. And that's really the only thing we have to go off of for this design. So let me. Alright, just putting my iPad to the side. Alright, so that's gonna go right about here. So let's see how that works as a template. First of all, I'm going to smooth out this shape a little bit. Right. The middle is approximately right here, but really don't really need to care too much about that since we are we're going to even it out anyway. What I mean by that is once I cut out one side of this cross section, I can actually fold this in half because it's going to be probably similar shape enough so that I can match most of it, and then trim the imperfections off. Now this wouldn't be a problem if you printed out your template, right? But for me, I have to do this by hand, so here we are. Okay, that's good. We're just seeing how this fits so far, so let's cut halfway on the midline here. Then fit it to the bottom of this canopy here. So I'm not sure this will stand. This will probably not stand. Alright, there we go. Alright, we are going to make our first cut into the spline loft here. Alright, no taking that back, but I don't think we need to worry about that. So, good news is it fits. Bad news is it doesn't fit too well. So we have a little extra material here, and I forgot to put in the tabs, right? But this excess might be acceptable to use as tabs. I mean, overall it looks okay. Doesn't look too bad. It's just we need a little bit more material here to be able to form that angle a little better. So let me create another one of these. Right, just tracing the shape using the template that we made. Okay. And then I want to give it feet right here. I know we said there was extra already, but the reason why we're adding more is that we want it to fit better, right? If you only have a little bit of material to use as an anchor, it's not going to fit well. So if we have a larger attachment to the flat portion here, then it'll stay a little better. Let's test that idea out here. Just cut that off first, make our lives easier. It's really a precision job that you need to do here. you see, this one lines up a little better than the first template that we made. So folding in half, find the midpoint perfectly. Then we're gonna have to cut this to the middle here. And then this is going to fit down here. And so now with that extra, I guess, foot area, I'm actually probably going to be able to put this in. Okay, so this isn't ready. This isn't quite ready yet. To cut a little bit more here. This is really just trial and error. Seeing what works. Of course, if you had this thing designed out in CAD beforehand, you wouldn't have to deal with this. Alright, now I'm just going to take something straight like this, right on the line there, fold that. Alright, now we can use the power of symmetry to achieve that fold, that same fold on the other side. As you saw there. So now we have a cross section that has feet that can be taped to the bottom, right? Now it's like a puzzle. It fits together quite nicely. And again, we need 2 of these for every station. And there are lots of stations on the underside. Something like that. Right. So if we tape that down, it's gonna look like this. I think what we need to do here is cut a little bit of relief. We don't want this piece to warp, so we need to give it a little larger, a little wider slit here. Notice that was a very thin piece, but it allows it to sit better, allows the cross section to sit better. So it's looking great. We'll say like we could, let's move this clip forward to better help us align. We can actually remove some of this feet material just to make it a little bit more efficient, I guess. Remove that. Right. But if we mark it on one side, should we mark it on the other? The answer to that is no. So, with this in mind, we can now, let's actually define that crease with a graphite mark. Okay, so erase this, because otherwise it's going to confuse us. So what we're going to do is fold it in half and use the side of our lead right there to mark that out. And do the same for the other side. Actually just came up with this technique. I'm not sure it's used anywhere else, but it's a pretty clever way to get a straight mark really fast. That's right on the crease. Okay, so this is gonna be number 1 here. Let's just call it 1. We'll know which one's which, right? This is 1. Number 1 cross section. Because it is the very first one. That was pretty easy to explain, right? And we try and cut this out of cardstock, the final work material. I guess working material. We can trace this on, right? This is pretty boring stuff, but this is how you do things without a printer or CAD or anything. It's the old-fashioned method. Locations there, center location right there. That's where the lines come into the center. This shape a little bit. Draw the center mark here. Draw where the cut ends right about here. So. Where the cut comes about here, so everything above that we can erase. And then here, we just connect the dots like this. Right. So that looks pretty good. Looks good to me. Now I just need another one of these. For the opposite side, right? These need to be double layered to make them more durable. And they cancel out, they actually cancel out each other's tendencies to fold and things like that. So I'm gonna put this foot right on there. This excess material right here. Right, looks good. Looks good. All right. Sorry if my hands are blocking. I'm holding the workpiece steady. It's right there, right? And then the center point is right there, and then the cut point is right about there. So This will help us mark out the geometry a little better, but I doubt we will actually be using this other than maybe these two lines on the side here, because that's, you know, these define the fold. It's about to happen. The other ones don't matter too much because if we're cutting one piece, we can layer them back to back, and then the cut will go through both pieces, assuming you don't shift them, right? So, finding good, efficient ways to do things. Alright, so I'm just closely following this shape right here. What day it is? It's the 25th, so the next time I see you guys will actually be October. Wow, time really flies. Right, so that's our first piece, or second piece rather. Given that this is cardstock, right, it's a heavier material, we may have to increase the gap on the longitudinal loft structure. And that's just simply due to the fact that it's thicker. So you need a larger gap if you want to avoid any warping. Right, this is what it means to be meticulous. Try to be as exact as you can. I'm trying to think of what to do for my next project already, because we're about there. I think I might do another rapid prototype, or even potentially some fictional plane, but you know, just take a break from the realistic stuff because it's been a long time since I started this. Alright, so it's about time to match this up. Right. Hold it in place. Then we can cut. Can cut a little bit of material off here. I feel like it's just easier on the other piece. This is a lot of length for a cut, so it might be a little difficult there. Here we go. So, oh shoot, this is not aligned. Shit. Alright, well. Well, there was an attempt. Maybe we'll be able to salvage this, but I'm not really sure. Seems like the majority of the slantedness is on the handle, so might be able to get by. Let's see. Okay, that's good. There solid crease right there. Okay. And let's just do the same thing for the other side. I'm gonna lift it up with an X-Acto knife. I'm gonna close it out with 2 rulers. Something like that. And we're gonna see how well this other one works. I don't know if it'll work well at all because it is a little bit off. But we're gonna try and see if it's acceptable. Yeah, making things exact by hand isn't a great way to do things, but you can try your best. Something like that. Now we put these back to back. Now we try and fit them on. So before we do that, I might have to cut a little bit more on this tab here. There we go. So now there's a visible gap. Hopefully you guys can see the white background there. You can see the gap right there, right? So widen that a little bit. Now we can, oh shoot, this is gonna be tight. There we go. Alright, we might have to cut a little bit. I think, yeah, you need to cut a little bit of material off of each side to make it work. By each side, I mean like each fitting piece. So this one is a little tight because I did not cut it perfectly straight. So there's going to be quite a gap on this one. Let's see. Let's actually put it in one by one. So one by itself sits quite nicely. The gap might be a little too little. Alright, so it's a good fit now after that widening. It's a little bit tall, so I might have to increase the depth of the cut on these two pieces right here, which is going to be hella sketchy because that cut is pretty deep. I don't want to shift everything. Okay, not quite enough. So I think in this case we might have to deepen the cut. Not on these two because these two are going to be too weak, but on this. Yeah, it's a very finicky process to get a good fit. There are specific engineers in large companies that focus entirely on this kind of thing. Right, it's called quality engineering. Where you're interested in things like tolerances and fits, things like that. Alright, maybe it's just the cross section. I know we got the exact cross section, but it might not be perfectly scaled and things like that. So cut a little bit off the tip here to make it flush. And this is like, you know, this isn't engineering, right? This is taking some creative license here to make things work. Just gonna be a slight cut here. This should make it work a lot better. Yeah, no, that's the right orientation here. Yeah, no, it fits perfectly if we keep a very tight, compressed fit. So, I guess there's a little tiny bit left. A gap there. If I can. Fix this, clean this bit up here. Let's see if this works. Yeah, no, I think it's good. It's probably as good as we're gonna get it. Sorry this is taking so long, but you do really need to spend the time to make sure things work. Alright, so we tried trimming down on this piece right here. Looks like, I don't know, it's really deep fit already. I don't want to compromise the structure here. It seems like that final bit will enable us to sit flush. If it doesn't, then that means our feet are not well defined. I think we need to start taping this. Can't spend too much time to know when to move on. So this, as long as this is flush, right? This other piece is also in. Looks good. Now we take another piece here. We're going to secure the opposite corner. Actually, that first tape anchor is a little bit too forward to move it. This is the tricky part, right? This isn't perfectly flat fit. There we go. That's better. And then fit this down. And then align this. Tape down there. Don't worry, this is not the final tape configuration. I'll have to add more. I should have taped the diagonal corner. Damn. Alright. I broke my own rule. Yeah, I'm not thinking straight today. So apologies for that. Better fit. So we're gonna need a little bit here. The other side. Actually, let's cut this in half. We don't really need a whole piece. Should have done that with the other one. this is looking nice. Looking nice. To use a little bit more here. A little bit more to make sure there are no gaps. Make sure that it's seamless. Great. And now, let's check in alignment real quick. And start taping the corners. Really, I think in a real model or something like that, we'd probably be using glue, but I don't really like to use glue, so here we are. Tape this bit right here. Just to reinforce the structure a little bit better. Right. This one's gonna be interesting. Okay, all right, we're almost there. So we got that. Now this one's the last one. Let's see. I have some week old tape on the side here. That might do the trick. Yeah, I did say week old. I just have some scraps left hanging. All right, I think it's time to remove these clips a little bit. Honestly, I'm starting to think all the cross sections are probably going to be the same. we can definitely use the same cross section as this one for the second one to start out and test with. Yeah, I just need to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 8 more of these sections to go. And we're already at 66 minutes. So we're going to go to 130 minutes or so. I can put a clip at the very front, one at the very back. This will definitely keep it stable. Let me turn on the other light. Be right back. All right. So we finished the first one. Okay, let's just use the same template and see what happens. Just clear some of this scrap out of the way. See, this is why I keep my scraps of cardstock, because you can squeeze parts out of it. I don't mean like squeeze literally, but you can definitely get some parts made out of scraps. Okay, looks good. I just gotta mark the key points here. Alright, so it's gonna be a little tricky. Just gotta be careful. This is the side, middle, side, bottom, fold. Cut line right there. Okay. Yep, that's the cut line. These are the fold lines. This will free up the 2 tabs on either side. I want to see how this fits first. That's why I'm doing this. Go. Right. I feel like because F16 has a pretty straightforward cross section. It doesn't vary all that much, so we might be able to get away with just minor adjustments to the cross section, or even just without modifications. This is kind of difficult because I don't want shadows on my cut, so I have to align it a certain way. Alright, cut out the slant. It's a little tiny bit crooked. So I fixed it. Oh, this is a really tight piece. Alright. Let's see if that works. Huh. Okay, well, it turns out the part is a little bit too thick. A little too tall, rather. Alright, even after we fit everything in. We need to change the template. So I feel like this is going at least that much. So if we modify the template, no, the template is good. I don't know why this cardstock piece is a little out. That is kind of eyeballing it, but I do want to see if that works. Ah, yeah, that works. Looks a lot better. It's better. It's still not quite there. It needs a little bit more. Yep, that is a lot better. Okay, so instead of modifying the template, I'm just going to use this as the new template. Alright, and we do need to mass manufacture this, so here we go. Okay, so that's the second one. So we need how many more after I cut this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I need to make 14 of these? Jeez. Alright. At least for this size, I need 4 to 6 more. Yeah, this is gonna take a while. I might just end up doing that today. Try to power through as many of these as possible. We're assuming an unchanging cross section, which is not accurate, but even with the same identical cross sections, we need a lot. A lot of pieces. Alright, so that's that. I need to make so many of these. Alright, we got 2 down. So this one is done. Just need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. This is really boring. Really should have done this outside of this stream, but I'm recording everything that I do for this plan, so. How did I not trace the bottom edge of that? Oh my goodness. Okay, looks good. great. Not mark out the sides here. I'll just do that. Just shifting it a little bit, and then with all of that marked down, I do need to mark this, so here we go. Okay, looks good. So it took so long. This is why I tend not to do this. If I can get by with using straws, then I will. You know? That's just kind of how I do things. Now, actually, now that I, mentioned that, if I made two cross sections here, lofted a straw in that structure, could that actually substitute all of these cross sections? What I'm saying is, like, what if we had, just put these cross sections aside, we don't lose them. What if we had, instead of a piece like this, right, and then you make cuts here, then you have pieces fitting like this, right, something like that. What if instead of that, you have like feet here, whatever, you have, and you have a lot in between, you have something like this. Then, you cut out a little circle here for a straw to be lofted. And then you can use the power of straws to, form like a nice smooth shape. Kind of want to try that idea out, because if that's what we're going to do, then we only need to make one more cross section. Right, and then loft it. So essentially what I'm trying to do here is trying to reduce the amount of time that I have to spend making cross sections. Right, so here we have 3. So we need 4 for this to work, right? We have 2 at each of these locations. And then this cross section will have to look like this, right? Roughly speaking.